Okay, so this is my 2007 Shelby Mustang GT500. I wanted to introduce to the channel. I have owned this car since it had 2,054 miles on it. It currently has like 19,700 and some odd miles. So I put a lot of those miles on it early on when I had it. I don't drive it a whole lot now. See, it still has some track numbers on it. I have taken it to the track. One time, it's really the last time I really had the car out, and I just left the numbers on there. So this car has a lot of Ford Racing performance parts on it that are no longer available, and I'll step through some of those. Been pleased with everything, so I hate that they quit producing parts for these cars. So the springs that it's on are the Ford Racing FRPP lowering springs. It dropped the car on the tires about 1.5 inches lower than stock, which was needed severely. These cars come with a real bad rake from the factory. It dropped it like 1 inch in the front and 1.5 inches in the back. Now I am running the Ford Racing KR mufflers. This is what comes on the KR cars. Really pleased with those. Good sound, no drone. I am running a 375 tire in the rear now, and a 285 up front. So what I did was I bought another set of wheels because I didn't want my originals hacked on, and bought another set of wheels and shipped these out to California, and a guy by the name of Eric Vaughn widened them. And this is the guy you want to widen your wheels. Let's see if I can show you here. See, as you can see, there's one weld there, one bead, not two like Weldcraft. There's not a band there. There's just one machine weld there. Really clean job. So what he does is he takes your wheel, cuts the back half off, and cuts a new wheel in half, and welds that back half of the new wheel onto your wheel. So it's a real clean job, and you end up with just one bead there. He's really well known for that. Been doing it for years. Highly recommend him. Some other stuff, moving on to some performance stuff, is it is running a smaller 2.5 inch pulley by VMP, and a Ford Racing 113 millimeter mass airflow air intake. I don't think this is available from Ford Racing anymore. I may be mistaken. This piece I know is not available anymore. This come on the KR cars. I am running the Ford Racing 65 millimeter throttle body. Not sure about that. That might not even be available anymore. So with this setup, the car, I've never had it on the dyno, but other cars have been putting down with these same mods about 555 at the rear wheel, which puts the car around 630 at the motor. So it's just about as far as you want to take it on the stock blower, really. A lot of people are running smaller lowers, but this is on the factory lower. I do have Ford Racing by Tukiko adjustable struts and shocks. So these are the adjustable ones. So if you want to firm up the rear and soften up the front for the track, you can do that with these. Really nice. I'll just mention that at this point that this car's never been in the rain ever. So it is just a really clean car still under here. Really, really clean. I do have the JLT 2.0 oil separator on the passenger side. And the tires that currently on it are the Toyo Proxys. These are the, what do they call these in the rear? There's the TQ. Toyo Proxys TQ in the front. They don't have a exact match. These matched up really well. The Toyo Proxys was it T1 Sport matched up really well, and these are 285s in the front, 315 in the rear. Car is really dirty right now. You see all this pollen that's even those garage has gotten in there. So some other mods is the car is tinted with ceramic tint, 35%. The reason it does look darker is because the front is tinted 50% ceramic, so that darkens it up just a little bit. Really like the way that turned out. Do have a bit shorter antenna here. The one that came on these cars was no joke. It was like, you guys know, they're like this high, maybe higher. It's ridiculous looking. But anyway, the stubbies can lose reception, so this one kind of flows with the top of the car. So I thought that fit the car well. It is signed by Carol Shelby. Show you that. The car is all stock interior. The original mats are in the back. These were in it when I got it at 2,000 miles, so original mats have pretty much been in the back since the car was new. It's all stock. I do have the, I did put the VIN number plate there. And then, like I said, Carol did sign this car in 2007. Still got the helmet sitting there from the track. But this car has been flawless car. Really like it. These are extremely well-built cars. Very happy with it. I like this body style over the little bit later ones personally. So I just plan to keep this car. I have looked at getting a Super Snake, and I can tell you about the Super Snakes a little bit. Every one of them I looked at, I've only looked at a couple, but like the last one I looked at, for example, had 5,000 miles on it. It was a black car, black 08 with 5,000 miles. And I just was not pleased with the condition of it. One, it was a, it was a worn car for 5,000 miles, but the Super Snakes, they wasn't, I love a Super Snake, don't get me wrong, and I still may own one, but they wasn't a Ford production car. You got to keep that in mind. So they had several plants that produced those, or dealerships, not plants, but so you had, let's see, you had Tasca Ford in Rhode Island. And I may not get these exactly right. So Tasca Ford in Rhode Island made Super Snakes. They had a deal to make X amount there. You had a place out in Dallas. You had a place in Canada, Sean Highlands, I think it's called. They had a really bad rep of what come out of their shop. And then you had the place out in Vegas, Shelby America. So if you do get a Super Snake, I wouldn't personally get one unless it was a Vegas car. I think they do the best job that I've seen, that I know of and read about. That makes sense. They're the prime dealership, right? The flagship. So, not to say the other ones are bad cars, but the attention to detail, I think, is going to be better in Vegas. And I also think that they'll probably bring a little bit better price being a Vegas car. But one of the things I'll tell you is, even the last one I looked at that was out of Vegas, I'd already pretty much decided I wasn't going to get the car, and then I saw some of these things that I'm about to show you. So I could tell wrenches had been turned on the bolts down the fenders. I think on both sides. I'm pretty sure I looked in both sides. So I started questioning, had the car been wrecked or whatnot, and the seller said, I never had noticed that, but sure enough, he agreed, you know, there had been wrenches turned on these. You could tell on the paint on the bolt. And the paint line on the fender was shifted, you know. So after doing a little bit of research, it was fairly common. So the hoods that they used on the Super Snake was a fiberglass hood, and the fiberglass hoods was pretty bad quality as far as fitting it. So it was pretty common for them to have to pop these fenders loose and make adjustments for the hood. So now you have a car that, you know, has basically like a wrecked car would be. You have wrenches, marks all over the paint lines off. I mean, is that a huge deal after I found out that that was common in the Super Snake? No, that's not going to keep me from buying one. But I'm just giving you an example of, you know, what you're getting when you buy a Super Snake car, because it wasn't a Ford production car. Is you know, you had a shop that wasn't Ford messing with the car. So just buyer beware a little bit, and just know that things might not be perfect on them. So that was just one thing. If you start looking at the Super Snake cars, you can start picking up on stuff. It just wasn't all the same, you know. A lot of the Kenny Bell cars would always have Kenny Bell decal right here. The black car that I went and looked at was missing the Kenny Bell decal right here. The owner was like the third owner. He didn't know enough about the cars to answer my questions, because I was like, you know anything about this missing Kenny Bell decal? It was just a sticker that it was, you know, Kenny Bell blower. They would always stick it roughly in here. Now, it didn't have to be here, but that was where most of them was. But this car had it nowhere. So it was just things like that. It was like, you know, it was just whoever was working on the car that day is whatever they felt like doing. You know, it wasn't quite a Ford production line kind of quality is what I'm saying, long story short. So I will keep looking for a Super Snake car. It's just going to take one that's a really clean one, because everyone I've looked at is not nearly as clean as my 19,000 mile base GT500. And here I am, you know, they're wanting like 70 grand for these cars, and they got lower miles, but they're not nearly as nice. And I just haven't been able to do it yet. So anyway, that's the short story of my car. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some things. I think I've pretty much covered it, what I've done to it, which is not much. If I hadn't mentioned it, I did put a 170 T-stat in there to help with the temps a little bit. And nothing much else that we haven't covered. But I just wanted to pull it out here, even though it's pretty dirty right now, and just put it on the channel. I know the Ford fans out there will probably like it. I had a lot of Jeep fan interest on my Jeep, and so I said, you know what, I hadn't pulled my car out here yet, so I put it on here too. But that's the GT500. It's a base model, but it's a clean one. And so far, I'll just keep it. There's other stuff out there that's, you know, the Hellcats and whatnot. It's a lot more car off the showroom floor. But sometimes you just find a car that fits you, and you know, it just feels like it's your car, feels right to you. And that is this car. When that supercharger starts whining and singing to you, you know, I love this thing. I mean, it brings back the first smiles that I ever had in this car when I hear the supercharger. And it runs well, runs really well. This car at the track, we'll talk about that. I didn't do too well with it. It should be capable of like low 11 seconds. 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, that kind of thing. Best I can remember, it ran like 12.6 at 120. And that I just, you know, I was not bogging it enough off the line. I was just spinning, not getting enough launch. I wasn't launching it right. So about the best I did that night. I only did 3 passes. It was like a 12.5. Like I said, 120. But it's capable of a lot better than that. I just need a driver mod. Alright, so I don't want to get this too long, so I'll wrap this up. And I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks.